Development Infrastructure Committee is called to order at 9:46 a.m. We do appreciate the patience of everyone coming to present this morning. We will start with the roll call.
Commissioner Johnson is absent with notice. Commissioner Weipert is present, will be here shortly. Markham.
Here.
Miller is absent with notice. Rahman.
Present.
Long.
Here.
Spiz.
Present.
Smith-Charles.
Present.
You have quorum.
Great, thank you. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is approval. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support from Commissioner Markham, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote.
That's right, you guys had to wait for us to get done. These are items.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Great, thank you. That motion carries. Item 5 on the is to approve the agenda. I'll take a motion to approve.
Good.
By Long, supported by Rahman, thank you. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, we can prompt the vote.
Oh, shoot. Yes.
Approving the agenda.
Pretty good there.
Okay.
Yes, to approve the agenda.
Oh, yes. It's like a piece of paper.
Is this
Sorry.
agenda? Yep, approve the agenda.
Notes. Okay. Those nails. I know, I just got new nails on, they're too long.
6 yeas and 0 nays.
Great, the agenda has been approved unanimously. That takes us to item 6 on the agenda, which is public comment. Anyone here from the public would like to address the committee, you have 3 minutes per your speaker, and it's related to items on the agenda only. Do we have anyone from the public who'd like to address the committee? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close public comment. Takes us to item 7, which is our regular agenda. Item A, I'll take a motion to recommend to the board Economic Development, Aviation and Transportation Grant Acceptance, Reconstruct Runway Lighting, Runway 1028, and Design VLL.
Code words, I don't know.
Spiz and Markham, thank you. And welcome, Ms. Bush.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
This grant acceptance is for our Oakland Troy Airport. This is to design the reconstruction of our lighting system. If you recall, last year we had an rehabilitation of the runway, and so this is the second phase of that, and it'll upgrade us to LED lighting. So the grant is also requires no match, so it's a $51,000 grant and no out-of-pocket for us as a local share.
That's
Nice. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Bush on this item? Just curious, at the airport, which we will all be, many of us will be touring in the next few weeks, just in terms of downlighting. I used to know the word when I was in energy management, but to avoid the whiting out of a night sky, do those lights kind of portray down, or are they?
Yeah, these are taxiway and runway lights, so
Okay.
they're very low to the ground.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, I think we can go ahead and prompt the votes.
Madam Chair, I had a question, if that was okay.
Oh, Mr. Johnson, welcome, please.
Thank you.
We have the vote in, but we can wait to announce.
Okay.
It says 2 more, right?
Go for it, Brendan.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, I love this, that we don't have to commit any funds. It's awesome. I'm just curious if we have an estimated cost savings in energy costs because of the transition from, well, I'm not sure what it's coming from, but to LEDs.
I don't have a number per se. I do know that they expect that there is a cost savings, but we'll have to look down the road and report back on that once we see the advantages.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
thank you, Commissioner, as well. All right.
The vote is, you got 6 yeas, 0 nays.
6 yeas, 0 nays, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Let's go ahead and,
You want to have Commissioner Johnson mention where he's participating from?
yes. So Commissioner Johnson, can you just identify where you're calling in from?
Yes, I'm calling in from Lansing, Michigan.
Thank you. Go green. Yeah, let's
We're
go.
tainted again, though.
Yes, you are. Let's go ahead and open item 7B to recommend to the board. This is the Economic Development, Aviation, Transportation, Oakland County International Airport Land Lease Termination, Pentastar. Moved by Smith, supported by Rahman. Thank you. Ms. Bush.
Yes, this is a land lease that was entered into with the intent to construct a new hangar facility. And we had provided a number of extensions as they were working through increased costs related to COVID and trying to market their project. They came to us in July indicating that they could not move forward on the project, that they were going to terminate the lease agreement with the county, and we worked out the terms of that. Their lease stopped in July. They forfeited 3 months of rent payments that was accepted as a deposit. And there's plenty of interest in this property, so we expect to offer an RFP for the property as soon as this termination is approved.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you again
Look
soon.
forward to seeing everyone at the
Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Next is item 7C, which is a recommend and forward to finance economic development grant acceptance for Michigan Economic Development Corporation, otherwise known as MEDC. And this is a strategic outreach and attraction reserve fund, also known as SOAR, pilot grant. Moved by Wypert, supported by Markham. Wonderful. And it looks like I would ask if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself for the record.
I'm Jean Broad, I'm the interim economic development director for the county.
And I'm Dom Holmes, Manager of Economic Development Initiatives at Economic Development.
Welcome, welcome. I didn't want to flub any names. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
We're here today to ask you to give us authority to accept a $2 million grant from MEDC to support site development. Actually, I think that we've changed the wording, so it's pending approval from legal because there's an outstanding issue that we're hoping to resolve today. But so basically, it's a little bit of background. Availability of buildable sites in the county is a key impediment for our attracting new business investment in the county. Right now, there's a lot of money available across the country for these large mega sites. We do not have anything in this area. We only have 2 sites that are even in the 100 to 200 acre size at the moment. So we're looking to find ways to develop more buildable sites and make them attractive to potential investors in the county. So there's sort of a history to this. Approximately June of last year, we were told that the legislature was supporting, looking at making available some money to the local communities for site development. So we were asked at the time how we would spend, if we wanted this kind of money and what we would do with it. So we gave them, I think we had a few hours to respond, and so we sort of marked out a $20 million ask in some general pots to basically support potential consultant analysis of sites, like environmental sites, this kind of thing, to understand more about the site readiness of the property, and also money available for actually making some infrastructure improvements such as road extensions, electricity, sewer, and finally some money that might be used as a closing fund when we're on the fence with some major big investors. At the end of the day, we were told in November that we were going to get $2 million, but at the time we weren't asked to really specify how that would be spent. In April, we actually received from MBDC a request to fill out a form saying more specifically how we would spend the money in a number of categories. And we were told at the time that we needed to allocate the money by categories, and we could choose as many of the specified categories. There were possibly 10 at the time, but we would not be able to add new categories later. So we
That's one of my questions, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can we shift?
yes.
So all those categories that are listed right now are set, but we could shift dollar amounts
Yes,
amongst them?
yes,
Okay, that was
uh-huh.
one of my questions.
So to give us maximum flexibility, we chose about 6. I think we could choose up to 6. So we chose those 6 there, which are, I think you see that there would be about 20% of the grant would be used for general administration, a certain amount for marketing, a pile for consultant studies. Also, the next categories were for infrastructure improvement of electricity, sewer, and roads. And the final category was sub-grants. And we were, in this initial application, we chose about a quarter of that to be sub-grants intended to go to the CVTs. And so that if we had localities that really wanted to promote a site or whatever, we were going to provide a process where they could actually submit proposal and
That's
you want
right.
to explain this? a
That's
little
right,
further?
and so one of the great things about this grant opportunity is that there is no match requirement. One of the things that we did in preparation for this opportunity, knowing that it was coming, was put together a cross-functional team. So we included folks from our planning department, our planning unit, business development, our brownfield authority, and also the administration to come together and talk about how these funds could be expended equitably. So part of that involved looking at a community-facing program that would allow us to receive applications from communities. Because it is difficult to disperse $2 million, and we don't want the problem of, sending 1 million to one quadrant of the county without the others being included in the mix. So we've looked at how we can do that equitably. Moving forward, we would need to look at a scoring matrix, a rubric that is objective in nature. So we will be doing that if we get the funds, accepted. We've also put together an effort with our business development teams. They are out meeting with communities, trying to understand which are the sites that they are eyeing as strategic and which they want to put forward for programs like this, so we can start to take an inventory and understand the types of activities, the type of costs involved in site development. And then we've also got our internal teams working on mapping those sites in GIS so that we have a categorical, inventory of these sites to pull from and draw from as we work forward. And then there are also plans in fiscal year '24 as part of our proposed budget to put these sites on the economic development microsite. So this inventory is available to site selectors and developers alike.
Thank you. I'm gonna interrupt just briefly. I have 2 commissioners who wanted to ask a question. I'm gonna start with Spiz and then Dr. Rahman.
Right. This program seems very, very familiar. I think we as a Board of Commissioners did something very similar to try to get some projects shovel-ready, which it sounds like you're trying to get there
Yes.
from a county perspective. And we provided grants to CVTs to do plans and be ready for this. But that was a match. Now, is there anything stopping us from doing the match? Because $2 million is not a lot of money. It's not gonna go a long ways with all the CVTs.
Right.
Can we do a match for certain things, or is that outside the purview of the grant and we wouldn't be able to get it if we did a
Good
match to the CVTs?
So are we thinking of a match from general fund?
No, I'm thinking
A match
for
from the
for
community.
sub-grants, you had 500 grand
Maybe from
here
the community,
for
right?
sub-grants to the CVTs.
Like a
In our
tripartite.
program, they had to match it, it was a 50-50 split, right? So we help support them. Are we allowed to do that with this if we go out with these sub-grants, or no?
I think we have flexibility in that. We can certainly set our own parameters for the programs, and we have talked about, making the amount of other investment coming into the site one of the categories for consideration in the grant application or in the application for communities.
Okay, so and since this program's
Go farther.
so familiar for what we've done, I think you guys already have that outline of scoring,
Money will go.
because we did it in the past for anybody that put in a request from the CVTs to do a project. For plans, et cetera, there was some kind of a score that went through, I think, economic development,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can dust that off,
Yeah,
save yourself a little time and recreating the wheel and
that
use
is
that.
Yeah.
My only other question, at least at this point, is the $200,000 for general administration. That's 10%. They didn't set a limit. Usually it's like 7 that they allow you
They
to
set
do.
a limit of whatever that, we took the max, whatever.
Took
it
the
was.
max, okay, but we
And
can shift
add
it.
that to the grants.
But you could shift that money.
We can shift that money,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
I mean,
The other one's 10% too, the transit.
All set, Mr. Smith?
I'm all set, thank you,
Okay.
for now.
Yes, Commissioner Rahman?
That's a good question.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's a good idea.
A couple clarification questions. One is the grant period is from October 1st of last year, is that correct? So this is actually opened up previously?
Well, it opened up last year. We were told last October that we would be getting the money, but
Okay.
then it took a while for them to work out the details of, and that's somewhat typical with EDC grants.
Okay.
And because of that, they also often give us the opportunity to extend a little bit
Okay.
if we're, have things in process.
And so that was part of my next question. What is our time frame then? You know, presuming all this moves forward, which it sounds like it probably will, to actually get everything up and running.
Well, we have a couple of projects that were, that are in the pipeline right now that could be, one of them has to do with a potential investment by VW that's going to be made that we might be able to add some additional money to the state pot for that. We also have the Holyoke Park, and Don has been working very closely on that one.
Yes. So Jean mentioned that we only have 2 sites that are between 1 and 200 acres, which kind of narrows the field of things that we can do when companies are looking for sites. So we have been looking at some of the larger opportunities, including in Groveland Township and other places where we have sites approaching 200 acres, which really need some support, as indicated by the community. So that is part of the effort to get our teams out to start to inventory, talk to the communities about what that site inventory looks like so we can do our work before this thing even launches and have everything wound up and ready to go. We do have that program outline, as I mentioned, for this community-facing program. There's more work needed on that, including developing that scoring matrix. But we have tried to do as much pre-work as we can in anticipation of the funding.
Gotcha, okay. No, I appreciate it. No other questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Markham, you're up next.
Okay, thanks. So, you mentioned a couple hundred acres in Groveland Township, and the size of these parcels you're looking at are big.
Yes.
And, I'm wondering about redevelopment as opposed to going into Groveland Township and clearing out 200 acres worth of trees and
Or farmland.
farmland and natural habitat and just all of that, and everything that comes with that, the infrastructure, the everything. I would like to see us, before we look at these outer areas and encourage development out there, to be considering redeveloping in the areas where we had factories or we had, old developments that are no more, in places like, obviously Pontiac, but there are other places. There's Waterford, there's Southfield, some of the community, out by me, there's at least one piece of property in the city of Novi that is next to a park that is a brownfield, that's not small.
Yes.
So are we looking at redevelopment?
Absolutely. That is one of the eligible activities as part of the grant, as we see it. One of the challenges that we have is that $2 million will not go a long way for 62 cities, villages, and townships.
Right.
So we are dealing with that. In our conversations with the communities so far, we're saying, hey, what could an award ceiling look like? Right now, it looks like it's gonna be $75,000 or less, which is gonna set it up for redevelopment as opposed to, greenfield sites because of the cost of infrastructure development and so on. So it is very likely that redevelopment will be a focus of the program.
Yeah, I think that our initial intent was really to focus on the smaller kinds of sites, the 50, or even smaller sites.
But we did lead by talking about the 100 to 200 because those strategic sites are all very important. So we have been trying to have those conversations with the communities to understand which are strategic sites for them, and that is one of the strategic sites that is on our radar as a result of those discussions.
And in order to get all that money spent in the 2 years, also those smaller sites will probably get high priority.
Okay, yeah, I always wanna see us looking at redevelopment first as opposed to, sprawl.
I agree.
Thank you, Commissioner Markham.
Thanks.
Next, Commissioner Johnson, I see your hand raised first,
Oh, we were told he was, and now I don't think he's on
No, he's
the
not.
call anymore.
He's not
Probably
muted.
got real
He's there,
wood.
everybody's
I
not
see
muted.
his
Oh, he is, oh, sorry, I missed it.
No, I'm here. Sorry.
problem. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you all, everyone. Oh, sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh my God. Sorry, you caught me walking through security at the Capitol building. No, I was just going to say, I love this, and I'm glad that we're being aggressive about this. In Lansing here, putting money into that SOAR fund has been one of our biggest priorities with competing against other states, right? We're talking Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, and whatever we can do in Oakland County to compete with other states helps the entire state of Michigan compete with other states. So I appreciate you being aggressive about this. I'm glad that we're all thinking in a really strong and competitive EDI mindset. So that's all I had to say.
We get more than 2 million from the state?
Yeah, ask why you're up there.
There's a lot of, I'm not sure what phase this 2 million came from, but it's a lot of money. So I don't know. I'm not going to speak on behalf of anyone.
That's probably a good idea, Commissioner Johnson.
Have a program where the city puts in, or the
Just as a
CBT
point
puts
of
in.
privilege, I am so impressed with all of you. Like, I love this makeup of this committee. You all bring the best questions from all of your lenses, and I just sit back and reap the reward of being the chair. Don and Jean, either. Did you have more that you wanted to share?
That's it. If there are any more questions,
Okay. You brought up really the crux of why I was probably leaning towards a no, because I get to vote again on this later today, so I can always change my mind. But I definitely felt sprawl. I didn't always understand what sprawl even meant, but certainly when we talk about infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like 50-50, but that particular line of questioning was very important for me. So having said all that, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, that motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, some of us will see you in a little bit.
Yes.
A lot of us.
But Commissioner Spiz, it's got the right idea. We could get this $2 million,
Yeah.
and then we find $2 million to have a matching
Can you say that
program.
again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling somebody last night that the Republicans and the Democrats on the county commission actually work together.
Yeah.
But it's a good point that we could actually create a program to expand the amount of money that's available to the CVTs, but with our own matching to that. So it's a good discussion to be having and thinking
It
about.
is.
It is, and it's a blessed position to be in as a county to say, oh, yeah, maybe
Let's
we'll
throw
throw in a
$2
little
million
of our
at
own.
it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 7D, which is a recommend and forward to finance, Economic Development Oakland County Transit Division appropriation of Oakland County Transportation Millage funds for planning community transit service area development with partner transportation agencies. Can I get a motion to approve? Thank you. And it was Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Markham. And we have Eli on the call. Good morning, welcome, thanks for coming on in, and the floor is yours.
nice to meet you.
Good morning, thank you. I am bringing forward this item after it was reviewed by the Transit Ad Hoc Committee. What is going on is really great news. We've seen significant expansion in our community transit service areas. The NOTA, OPC, People's Express, WOTA are seeing dramatic increase in ridership. They've been investing some of the county transit millage in additional vehicles. And the way I described it to the Transit Ad Hoc Committee was that we're making incremental decisions, and we really need to get our arms around this by undertaking a community transit area planning process. And that not only will we get our arms around the increasing demand, but we're also going to include within this recommended item support to help the authorities themselves to prepare for their growth and expansion over the forthcoming 4 or 5 years. So we're looking for your support to make a budget adjustment in order to allow for funding for a contractor to come on board to help shape the future demand and align the community transit providers with the demand as it would be anticipated.
Thank you, Eli. We'll start with Commissioner Long, followed
All
by
right.
Commissioner Spiz.
Beat you.
You're good.
All right, good morning, Eli. So you guys are doing great work. I wanna say that before I ask my questions. So on this, do you know who would be doing this contractual service yet? Or are we going out for RFPs, or who would be getting this contract?
At this point, we're prepared to go out for an RFP. That's been my experience with these processes, is to put it out for competitive bidding. And my expectation is it will either be a very large firm that has both transit and organizational development capabilities, or it may result in a teaming of a couple of firms in order to put together the best proposal for us.
Okay, and then this reminds me of, which we didn't pass, so this, I'm gonna just bring this back up. In finance, when originally, before we had, I don't even know if you were hired, you might have just got hired, and there was a $2 million earmarked for the professional service contract, and then I don't even think it came up for vote, because we all kind of thought, well, let's just see what's going on
We wanted to
first.
hire Eli first.
Yes,
Right.
okay, so Eli wasn't here yet, but it was 2 million, I remember that, because it was a huge number, and I just couldn't even, vote, but then we ended up not voting for that. So in my opinion right now, I know you guys are busy, but you guys do a great job. I'm not sure that we need to hire for $550,000 someone to take surveys. That's what it sounds like to me, planning surveys. I don't know, I'm just a little concerned about the price tag still at this point. You guys are doing an awesome job.
If I could jump in here, if I may, because
Yes, you may.
this was one of my questions. Could you explain a little bit more what we're looking for from this consulting service? I think I have an idea, but I don't want to put words in your mouth on what you're envisioning this consultant to come in and do. And everybody at this table knows I'm not a big fan of consultants, but
Nor I.
I need to understand what we're doing, because we may not have this expertise in-house,
Right.
which is maybe
That was-
why they're doing this.
this
So,
is why I wanna
Eli,
know
if you could
too.
expand on what's your scope of
Is that
what
your
you believe this
question?
RFP is going to be in,
Okay.
and what we think we're gonna get for $550,000.
Thank you for the question, and it's much more in-depth than survey work. So there will be geospatial analysis, big word for saying, taking a good hard look at the geography, the socioeconomics, the activity centers within a large portion of the county. Keeping in mind that the community transit providers run from the southwest up the whole western boundary, all the way around across the north, down back into the OPC. So it's a fairly large geographic area, and we're looking for detailed technical analysis of the characteristics of travel demand. Who's there, what the forecasts are for population growth, population change. We've heard the term the gray tsunami, and a lot of the community transit providers do provide the senior services. So that's one component of the overall project. And once we work with the project team to get an understanding of the changing demographics, the changing communities, there will be a robust public engagement process. So it's not merely just looking at data, but also talking with the community leaders, talking with residents to get to an understanding of what areas they would like to travel, what how their needs are being met, what gaps there are. And so that will create a fuller picture of what the demand side of the equation is. On the supply side, we have these 4 or 5 authorities. I'd say 5 because we could actually add SMART. SMART does provide support both in vehicles and in other ways for the community transit providers. And then in looking more narrowly at the 4 operators that I had mentioned earlier, NOTA, WOTA, OPC, and People's Express, they really do not have organizational development plans in place. And this is a way to take the information that the project team will assemble and work directly with each of the operators to help them develop strategic business plans in order to understand what fleet needs they have, what type of staffing for whether it's dispatchers or operators. So it's a comprehensive undertaking that includes both an understanding of travel demand, travel supply, as well as helping to provide the organizational development. Part of the rationale in terms of going for a contractor as opposed to in-house staff is that between Sarah and I, we're, if you will, running all over the place, providing the support that is enabling us to get to where we are now. And the intent on this is to be able to further extend our ability to provide support. It's also in the context of providing recommendations to external entities, having particular independence from the contractor, as well as their expertise, we believe will be an asset to help the project gain more traction quicker.
Thank you for that. I can continue.
Yeah, I'm done. I was
Okay,
done.
so- all right, my other question.
I yielded, because that
From a
was where I
timing-
was going with it,
From a
so.
timing perspective, you know, between RFP and to when we think we'd have a consultant on board, what's that looking like in your mind?
Yeah, so unfortunately, as a relative newcomer to the county, I'm not fully experienced with the process. Typically, it takes several months to go through the advertising, the proposal, the selection. Our hope would be to be well underway and maybe even find some preliminary findings during calendar 2024 in order to enable us to implement some of the preliminary recommendations as early as our 2025 agreements with the operators.
All right, so you would expect potentially some of this money might roll over into 2025?
I'm going to just say yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm thinking building process,
There's
too, it's not
generally
actually
delays
invoices
that
we pay
occur.
for it. It's gonna be, some of it's gonna, okay, that's what I figured. And just remind, how many people do you have on staff right now besides yourself?
Right now, it's just in the transit division, it's Sarah and myself. We do have a position offered to a third candidate at a planning associate,
Yep.
more junior level, and he might be starting next month.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay,
I thought they were there.
all right, thank you, I'm set.
Thank you. Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you. Eli, thank you. You know, we have kicked this around quite a bit. I've had many conversations with you in Transit Ad Hoc and otherwise. Two things I want to point out. One, did you speak about Michael Baker and the study that they're doing
Oh,
with
yeah.
SMART? I just want to make sure that
True.
distinction is made, just for the benefit of everybody else. I know you and I have spoken about this, but that's just something I want to make sure everybody understands.
So, thank you for the question. And again, this proposal, this recommendation is for the community transit area. And that is defined in the information we've provided to the committee members as the area outside of the SMART area. SMART meaning the area served by the Smart Transit Authority. And so the reason that we have emphasized and targeted the community transit providers is because SMART does have a Michael Baker team doing a professional review of the SMART fixed route area. They're looking at the fixed route services as well as what's referred to as micromobility. There are 3 flex transit zones operating within the county as a demonstration. And that's, many believe, is the wave of future public transportation. It's more demand responsive in the not heavily developed urban centers, but more in suburban environments, and it's a demand response system as opposed to a 40-foot coach where rather than a fixed route, the vehicles are discharged on call. So the Michael Baker team and the SMART analysis, we believe, is already under contract. We, the county, are participating as a steering committee member stakeholder, actively engaged with Michael Baker. But at this point, we have reason to believe that that work will take care of the metropolitan part of the county and with the fixed routes and microservices. And this is more to assist us in the community transit area and the community transit providers.
And Eli, where do the two overlap? So I understand that Michael Baker is going to be doing the microtransit, paratransit assessment to get people to the fixed routes. But what about communities like, again, coming back to my district with PEX, right? And some of the smaller communities, getting folks from I don't know, I'm trying to think, just some smaller area to those fixed lines. Is that going to be within the Michael Baker realm as well? Or is that going to fall within the scope that we're looking at here?
So my expectation will be it'll be handled in both, and that's part of the opportunity that presents itself to us now. We can piggyback, take advantage on any of the technical analysis Michael Baker's providing, as it evolves, and then we can coordinate that with our project team. But clearly, it's in the community and the operator's best interest in order to allow for transfers where folks from the outer portions of the county, if they're heading into the metropolitan, more developed urban areas of the county, that the smaller operators might find a convenient transfer. And that transfer would be orchestrated through these planning processes to result in procedures to enable that to occur.
Okay, and we're hoping that the time frame of that should overlap, right? Because I know Michael Baker was looking a little bit farther down the road, and this proposal is looking at 24-ish. So I just want to make sure the timing of that is all going to coincide.
Yeah, so my understanding is that SMART has a multi-year agreement with Michael Baker. Their project is currently underway. As a matter of fact, there's a steering committee meeting going on right now in our EOB meeting room just down the hall from where I'm at, and that they will continue to work on their scope, and we'll be able to coordinate with SMART staff and the Michael Baker team with our team once they come on board.
Perfect. And then last question I have is, if you can just speak a little bit to the stakeholder engagement process, and that's something that's been very near and dear to me from the beginning, because as I get out to the communities, that's one thing that I assure them. Do we have any thoughts or ideas of how we want to implement that and guarantee that that's going to be done as part of this process?
Yeah, so again, I appreciate the question. Part of my background as a planner, this is fundamental to all the work I do. We don't want to plan up in an ivory tower and tell people we know what's better for them. There will be, and I use the term a robust engagement process. I would anticipate in this project we'll lean on our community transit providers. So they have their own individual board of directors. They also have local governments that have sponsored them historically. So they're going to give us a running head start in identifying key stakeholders. They also understand who the businesses and health centers are that are their primary customers. And so we would be looking to work with the community transit partners and outlining some of the stakeholders. We will also configure general public workshops using both physical and virtual or web-based tools. That would be something that we'll be measuring the contractors in terms of their proposal. But I can assure the committee that this is a fundamental ingredient to success. We don't just want to run vehicles. We need to know where people are going. We need to converse with those people, confirm what the studies are telling us, and then design systems in order to reflect that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Eli, for fielding those questions. Seeing no other hands raised, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
I didn't get a pop-up.
No. Spitz.
Yes.
You have 4 yeas, 1 nay.
Right.
Oh, Chris.
I know, how'd you know his name?
We know.
Because you
That's
said
what they
you
start
thought
doing
you
to
were
me
gonna
in
vote
some-
against it.
No, I might change my mind, but I want no from now on, it'll be on
Eli
regular agenda.
disappear. He's-
I know, sorry, Eli, yeah.
Well, that motion carries,
I can change my mind
and
in a
it'll
week, or
be
whatever it's on.
rehashed again in finance anyway, so very
Oh.
good. Now, the rest of the
It's on
items,
regular agenda.
oh, got a little camera on here for Commissioner Johnson. Welcome again.
You get to pick that paint color?
I know, that's hideous.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay. Just wondering.
The next 3 are all WRC related, so we will go ahead and I'll accept a motion to
Price one out.
recommend to board. This is Commissioner Spiz moves, well, let me read it. Water Resource Commissioner assessing Chapter 18 drainage districts. Moved by Spiz, supported by Rahman. And that means we are ready for you, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Schaefer.
All right, thank you. This is Jeff Wilson. I'm the Chief Engineer for the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's Office, Construction Support and Drain and Lake Level Maintenance Unit. And we're presenting the annual Chapter 18 drain assessments, and then we'll get into the Chapter 4 maintenance assessments as well, followed by the lake levels. So I'm going to give a quick overview because the rules for the Chapter 18s also apply for the Chapter 4s. These are drainage districts. Chapter 18 drainage districts are established by developers, and they exist in West Bloomfield and Oakland Township, where ordinance required all new subdivisions to be built within public drainage systems. And so each year, our office at the end of the year, so right now, we put together assessments for the work that was done on the drains as part of their maintenance. The maintenance activities involve triennial inspections, which have been bumped now to every 4-year inspections. They involve inspection of open channels. They involve inspections of manholes, inspections of detention basins. These Chapter 18 drains are primarily pipe systems and detention basins, and making necessary fixes on them as we find problems. We've recently expanded some of our detention basin inspections. Previously, we not so regularly were going out and actually doing volumetric surveys of these detention basins, which are critical for flood control within the subdivision. We've recently gone to a actual regular time frame for doing that. It's above and beyond what most communities are doing, but we want to be a leader on this and make sure that these systems are functioning properly, and we're continuing to work as they're intended to do. So with this, we've prepared assessments, and again, these are based on actual maintenance from the previous year. And there are, your list within the packet, page 93, you'll actually see what's proposed to be assessed. Under the Michigan Drain Code, these are limited in how much we can assess, how much maintenance we can perform, and how much money can be kept in an account. So these assessments really do vary a lot from year to year. And that's based on statewide laws, so that's nothing that Oakland County has control over. There are exceptions that are made in the case of an emergency. I'm going to highlight 2 emergencies right now. In the Century Oaks drain, we had a sediment basin. So this is something that is intended at the outlet of a pipe to collect sediments to be cleaned out regularly. The actual berm on the downstream side of this had blown out, making it no longer functioning. So sediment now, instead of being captured in this basin, is now going directly into a water course. And so in the last year, we went out and repaired that. We had a contractor come in and completely reset the berm. It was about a 4-foot high berm that had to be reset on that, including some stone grading and heavy riprap. And this was in a rear yard off near some woods in the subdivision. So it required some limited access. A contractor with the right tools to get back there. And then the Maple Creek drain had a similar issue with the basin as well. This was actually in 2022 that we were still assessing for, that the outlet pipe, the stand pipe on this basin had essentially rusted out. It was made out of metal, and it had failed. A resident came through and actually modified it to bring up the water level in the detention basin. We had been notified by a complaint that there was high water elsewhere in the subdivision. We came in, realized all this was going on, and modified it and got it back to what it's supposed to be. So both of those are on the assessments for this year, as well as the other drains for routine maintenance. And these are set by the Water Resources Commissioner's Office, but as a courtesy, we've always come to the Board of Commissioners to present these. And so these are the numbers, and once we get through the Chapter 18, we'll come back and discuss the Chapter 4s. So at this time, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And we'll start with Commissioner Long.
Okay, so thank you. So I'm just clarifying again, these are on individual homeowners' property tax bills, correct? And then what is the increase on this? I see your chart, but will there be an increase or decrease for the drain, for the Chapter 18 for, if you want to say all of them? Is it generally an increase to the homeowner or a decrease this year?
So these vary based on the drainage district. You can see they have the previous assessment on there. If you look at page 93. So some of these are up, some of these are down, and that really has to do with the cap on the maintenance charges and what can be held in the account. It's capped at $5,000 per mile of drain, so they measure it based on the physical infrastructure, the actual length of it. And as a whole, we're actually down this year. There's been a decrease in activity. That usually these assessments are closer to about 300,000. This year, the total is 231,000. So there was actually a decrease in what was going on, but that does vary year to year, just based on the cats that are on there. The
So
$5,000.
You said this is from the state, that it's, like your amount that you could charge is regulated, right? It's a formula that you do? Okay,
That's correct, and it's really simple. It's $5,000 for every mile of drainage.
Okay.
So that's the amount that you can spend on maintenance in a year. It's also the amount that you can keep in the reserve account.
okay, and thank you for still,
It can be exceeded.
thank you for still including this chart. I asked for this probably 18 years ago. When I was here, they never showed what previous was to now, and I said, I can't vote when I don't even, I'd like to see what it was before it and now, so I appreciate your chart in here. Thank you.
There's a very long history of these charts in here. I know that it was
It's
years
18
of
years.
commissioner comments that we had put together. Lynn Sonkis could give you the whole history. She recently retired.
Yeah,
She knew everything on why we presented exactly.
that was what I
everything.
requested. I voted no until they had charts, so.
Shout out to Lynn,
Yeah,
miss her.
Yeah. all right, thank you, I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions from commissioners on the Chapter 18 Drainage Districts Resolution? Okay, we will then go ahead and prompt the vote.
Citizens and municipalities.
Commissioner Long?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hit save. It's these nails. Might have to get them cut shorter, sorry. There you go.
You have 5 days to do it.
I
Thank
thought I
you.
hit it.
Item E passed unanimously. That takes us to item 7F,
I use this thing.
the WRC assessing Chapter 4 drainage districts. I'll take a motion to open that. Mr. Spiz, Mr. Rahman, and Jeffrey and Garrett, back over to you.
All right, thank you. And I just realized I did not introduce Garrett Schaefer, who's also on the line. He is our drain maintenance engineer.
Very important.
He's deep in the woods on these drains and drainage districts. And I'm right with you because I'm looking at it from an office perspective, getting the drainage districts correct, calculations updated, day-to-day things within the drains. So these are Chapter 4 drains we're not talking about. These go back much earlier in the county's history. A lot of these date back to the mid-1800s, where they established these drainage districts because a central form of government really didn't necessarily exist at either the township level or even even at the county level to necessarily come up with infrastructure projects. And the infrastructure at the time, along with roads, was agricultural drainage. So that's what a lot of these Chapter 4 drains date back to. And we no longer have new Chapter 4 drains. They've been replaced by Chapter 20, which are set up to assess the communities at large. So these older Chapter 4 drains, there's not new ones being created, but these do assess the landowners. So they still charge the landowners in those original agricultural communities. Some of them, most of them are no longer agricultural. In fact, some of these are very suburban. You can see by some of the communities that are represented on here. But the same rules do apply. So it's $5,000 per mile of drain. These are combinations of open channel drains, enclosed pipe systems, and some of them have detention basins as well, other flood control devices that our office is maintaining. We maintain them through a combination of in-house staff. The CDM unit, Construction Support Drain and Lake Level Maintenance Unit, has about 35 people in it, including engineers and maintenance staff and supervisors and office support. And they certainly get busy with the rain. The last month has been a busy time, getting lots of phone calls, lots of investigations, checking out complaints. But on these Chapter 4s, I'm going to highlight two of the larger ones. We have the Patterson Holly drain. So this had an emergency repair where approximately 200 feet of pipe had to be repaired. Now that's larger than what our crews were able to do. So that involved contracted services through D'Angelo Brothers, one of the emergency pipe repair contractors. Approximately 200 feet of pipe was repaired as part of this emergency repair. And that included curb and gutter replacement, asphalt replacements, and that was all well keeping Saginaw Street and Holly open and keeping the local donut shop open as well. So we got that repair taken care of and got everything restored and minimized disruption. And then we also had the ferry drain this year. We had an erosion issue on this. So this was on an open channel where some water had started to redirect based on some sediment removal in the drain, or movement of sediment within the drain. We can now force some water out to an outside bank that at one point gave way in one of the large storms. It started eating into some private property. A resident had called and was concerned that their entire house was going to be consumed by this because it kept eroding in. And so the fix was an emergency repair involving a naturalized shoreline repair. The state regulates these open channel drains, and there's a lot of rules on what we can and can't do in them. For environmental purposes, we ended up using a erosion repair tactic that involved armoring the shoreline using natural materials, woody debris, natural stone, woody and herbaceous plantings, and created a much stronger shoreline so that it won't erode again, and while still being environmentally sensitive and meeting the requirements of the state and federal laws for that. So those are two of the larger assessments on the Chapter 4 drains. I'll open it up to questions at this point, and if you guys have anything more.
Thank you, Jeff. Quite fascinating, really. I mean, I could use some aerials of what you were just describing, just for the, yeah. I don't see any hands raised, but I will throw one in, because I don't see like a Hoffman drain or a Long drain or a Zach drain. So how do these drains get their names?
You have to die.
These ones really go back far. Okay, so the Chapter 18s are generally based on the subdivision name because a developer will build them when they petition it. So they usually name it after their subdivision. These older ones were based on, they're usually, if they're not like a community name or something, it's one of the original petitioners. So if you look back in the documents that we have from the early 1900s, late 1800s, the Francis drain, odds are one of the petitioners' name was, Bill Francis. And so he ends up naming it after himself because he spearheaded the effort. And these names have held ever since. Now, when they get taken over as Chapter 20s, that's where you see a lot of the commissioner names. So at some point, if they rebuild them and they create a new one, the Hawaiian Zach drain is in Auburn Hills, and that one, once a new drain is created, there's actually a wait list of names on that. So that's where those.
Yeah, we have to fight
I'm
for
so
it.
glad I asked. Thank you. That was very illuminating. We're going to go ahead and vote on this so we can stay on topic, but we'll prompt the vote.
Okay, well, Zach's alive.
You have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. That motion carries. And Garrett, maybe next time Jeff won't take all the attention and let you speak. But thank you both. That motion carried. So that takes us to item 7G, which is another recommendation to the board, WRC Lake Levels Assessment. We've got Jeff and Ryan this time. Moved by Long, supported by Smith. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So this is the annual lake level assessments. And with me today is Ryan Malashik, the lake level engineer, who you guys have seen the last couple of years for these presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to him to take care of the lake levels.
Excellent. Welcome, Ryan. Oh, we're missing your audio. It looks like you're unmuted.
Yeah, no audio.
That's why it's hard to do Zoom. Sometimes you have to sign out and go back in. No audio.
Okay.
Okay, so while Ryan's trying to get the audio set, I'll just do a quick lead in for these. The lake level control structures under the Inland Lake Act, the Board of Commissioners actually does have an approval here that's necessary. Lake level assessments for maintenance that exceed $10,000 require specific approval from the Board of Commissioners. So each year we come to you with the same reports essentially that we do for the Chapter 4 and Chapter 18 assessments. And this year, the sum total of these is $803,750. 23 of them exceed the $10,000. And on page 128 of the packet,
Yeah.
you should be able to see the
So I'm gonna have you make,
assessment.
and we'll give the microphone to Ryan for now,
Going, I can't do that.
and we'll mute Jeff. Excellent.
I'm guessing Jeff started going over the packet.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so these are our annual assessments for our lake levels, which are delegated by the Board of Commissioners to WRC to maintain. I don't know how far you made it into the packet. Typically, I'll just highlight a couple of the larger ones or larger ones that changed from previous years, just because those are really where the questions normally come up. Waterford Multi is always our largest assessment that covers 5 or 6 different dams. So with that, you see a large number, but it's a whole bunch of different dams. It's actually come down. We're doing a significant amount of work on a lot of these as they are 50 plus years old. So our numbers, there's quite a few, as Jeff pointed out, that are over the 10,000 mark. But with Waterford Multi, that's come down almost a third. It's $100,000 this year. That's assessed over a very large district. Your average resident only sees like $58 on their tax bill. Pontiac is another one that's come up, especially since the Midland failures. That one, we are working on a redesign. So every year we're spending some money to do engineering to essentially get us to the point of rebuilding, hopefully within the next 7 years on that, as the dam's over 100 years old, and they're saying the residents have seen the same assessment basically the last 4 or 5 years, around $80,000. And the last one is a last minute change we actually had to our assessments, which is Long Lake. That one's also an older structure. It used to have a pump that would pump water from the river up into the lake to augment it. That pump has failed 20 plus years ago. A new well was installed at that time, but we still use that as our outlet. But because of how that was designed, we have no access or capability of getting into it. With that, we're working on being able to get into it because we have concerns of clogging and the inability to drain that lake. And those are the 3 largest assessments that I have, and I will open it up to questions then.
Thank you, Ryan. I don't see any hands raised. Do I have any questions from the committee? All right, Ryan, I think we are all set to vote on this. So let's prompt the vote.
You have 5 nays.
5-0 nays, that motion carries. Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
WRC folks. Have a great rest of your day. Recommended board. So that takes us right to item 8, which is our second public comment. And if you are here to speak to the commission or the committee, you are free to go to the front now. Seeing no one moving towards the front, I will go ahead and close the second public comment. And is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Nobody wants to bring up-
Thank you.